Coming up on today's show.
And so whether, by plane, train, or automobile, I think knowing before you go what your goals are for the travel and what the logistics involved will be can help you prepare.
And we were setting up literally every half-hour appointments with different people, and it got to be one of those things. Well, I've got 36 appointments over this 3 days, and
for me, it was worth the cost of $5 to not have to bring running shoes because those are big and bulky.
How to organize your business travel today on Keeping You Organized. Hello and welcome to Keeping You Organized. A lot of people travel for work. A lot of people travel for pleasure too, but work travel includes sales calls, going to conventions, trade shows, and your employer, or if you're the boss, you want to make the most of that. So we're going to talk today on the podcast about how to make the most of those traveling efforts. And we're going to bring on the world traveler herself, Debbie Rosemont from It's Simply Placed. Debbie, welcome.
I do aspire to be a world traveler.
Yes.
Thank
well,
you for having me.
Well, thankfully, we've caught you in between trips. But we're going to talk about this business travel thing because, of course, companies want to be efficient and they want everyone to use the most of their time. But, when you go on a trip, at least it seems like to me, you're there 24/7. So I'm kind of interested to hear your take on how we get more organized and more efficient when we do business travel.
Sure. Well, traveling can take a lot out of us. And so whether, by plane, train, or automobile, I think knowing before you go what your goals are for the travel and what the logistics involved will be can help you prepare. So if it is a convention or a trade show that you're going to, what are you hoping to get out of it? Why are you going? Is it to represent your company? Is it to learn some new things? Is it to make some connections? So just being clear about what your purpose for going can help you kind of get mentally ready to be there, and perhaps even point out some research or some homework you might want to do before you even leave your hometown. So just being clear about what your purpose or goal for attendance is. If your employer is sending you to make a sales call or to deliver a presentation or to do some on-site client work, the goal is a little more clear and defined by someone else. But again, if it's a conference or convention where it's primarily educational, maybe some networking, getting clear about your goal is a good place to start.
Now, would you do that like a traditional goal setting? Would you kind of say, my goal is to, let's say, increase my connections? And would you have like the sub goals and maybe even break that into, okay, some tasks like on Monday I'm going to do this, on Tuesday? I mean, would you set an action plan? I know one of our other podcasts with you is on those SMART goals. This sounds similar to that. And is that kind of what we want to accomplish?
Yeah, goal setting, the more specific we can get, the more likely we are to be able to achieve our goal. So yes, and I'll go back to that conference or convention as an example. Typically ahead of time, you have some information about what sessions will be presented that you can choose from. Who will be at a trade show, who will be the exhibitors or demonstrators. And so you can look over the program and make some decisions and some selections intentionally before you get there and are wrapped up in the moment, making those decisions that are going to fulfill your goal. So if I go to a conference and I have a goal to learn about a specific aspect of business or a specific skill or technique, I can make selections both on the people that I choose to talk to, the exhibitors that I visit during a trade show, and the sessions that I attend that are going to most closely help me reach that goal. So yes, being specific is going to help you make some decisions.
Yeah, I know in a previous job I had, we had to go to this one event where all of our vendors basically were going to be there. So it was like the one time of year that you got to see people face to face. And we were setting up literally every half-hour appointments with different people. And, it got to be one of those things, well, I've got 36 appointments over this 3 days. But that's kind of like what you're talking about is you really do have to make the most of the time you're there.
Right. And think about, if you're going to be gone and in attendance over a multiple set of days, like you said, what do you want to accomplish or learn or do, or who do you meet on Monday?
Right.
What's going to happen on Tuesday? So that you also build in a little bit of downtime, because most conferences and conventions and even, back-to-back business meetings like you just described can be like drinking from a fire hose. We get
Yep.
a lot of input, and as we mentioned before, the travel itself can be energy draining. So we need to build in some downtime as well. So kind of, balancing some things out about how you'll use your time over the number of days you'll be gone is a smart idea before you go as well.
Yeah. What do you think about planning travel so that you're not cutting it to the wire? I know a lot of people want to minimize their hotel nights and all that kind of thing, but I know, at least for me, I like to have a little bit of margin, so because I've also been stuck in the airport for 14 hours and missed the beginning of a show or a conference
Right.
because I was
Right.
trying to cut it too close.
I'm the same on getting there. If I am traveling for a client and I'm going to be delivering a workshop or doing some consulting, it's not okay to not be there on time. When I'm leaving, I also like to, when you're paying for a conference or a convention, you're paying for the time to be there. And so to have to cut out early to make a flight home, you have to consider, what are you missing to get home
Right.
early, and is it worth it to stay one more night?
Right. So what else do we have to think about in this before phase?
Packing,
Oh, yeah.
just considering what you're going to be doing both during the on time and the off time. So, are you somebody who likes to re-energize by, taking a morning walk before you get going, and you need to remember to throw in your walking shoes? Or, is there going to be a cocktail party or something that is different than, either business casual or business attire that you might wear during the day? So thinking about what to bring. And then, a lot of people will have just a travel checklist that they use every time they travel, whether it's for business or personal travel, to remember to bring things like, headphones and chargers and all those little bits and pieces that can be easy to forget. When we have a checklist, it's easier to, be methodical about getting that suitcase packed and then having what we need.
Is there any tips for like avoiding overpacking? Because I won't say any names, but people like I know in my family like to take a little bit more than they usually use or need.
Sure. It's tempting to want to have options and choices, especially if the weather might be a little unpredictable. We need to plan for, different types of occasions. But if you can really think through those days that you're gone, and say, what will I wear on Tuesday? What will I wear on Wednesday? And just bring those things. And then, some hotels now, I know I recently was at a Westin, and they have, for $5 for your whole stay, you can get a fitness kit where they deliver, clean sanitized shoes, a brand new pair of socks that they don't expect to get back, and some workout wear. So if that's something that can be provided for you, and for me, it was worth the cost of $5 to not have to bring running shoes because those are big and bulky, I was able to save that suitcase space for a different pair of shoes that I couldn't have borrowed.
Wow.
So finding out, what offerings could, help you, such as that, ahead of time as well.
All right. Anything else with the before phase before we move on to the during?
No, I think we've hit on it. Thinking about your goals, thinking about how you'll use your time, kind of pre-planning, doing some research. So if there are exhibitors, for example, at a trade show, and you know that you're not going to get around and have meaningful conversations with everybody, could you do a little research on a few of the vendors that you want to speak with, and have some questions ready to go, so again, you maximize that time. That's easier to do before you even leave. And then thinking about the packing and how to pack smart.
Great. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get into the what you do when you're there, and we still have the what to do when you come home. So we've got a lot of ground to cover, and we'll do that when we get back here on Keeping You Organized. Now, there's a place just for you. Life can be busy, and you still have to keep it all together. That's why you like to be organized and in control. Introducing MyOrganized.life, a special place where you can get ideas and solutions to organize what's important to you, your important papers, your important decisions, your important life events. We show you the ideas and products to stay organized in your life. See what's new. Stop by and say hello. Visit us at any time at www.myorganized.life. It's just for you. MyOrganized.life by Smead. Find us at www.myorganized.life. MyOrganized.life. We're back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about being more organized for business travel, how to be efficient, how to use your time wisely. We spent the last part of the program talking about even before we leave what we do. Now, Debbie Rosemont, it's simplyplaced.com. Let's talk a little bit about what do we do when we arrive.
Sure. So I think when you're in business travel, you've already set your goals for what you hope to get out of that travel experience, whether it's learning, sharing information, connecting with certain people. So now we're at the point where we're executing our plan. And part of that is thinking about how are you going to capture notes and ideas and the learning that you're experiencing. How are you going to deal with business cards you may receive while you're there? So receipts that you need to keep track of to fill out an expense report form or work with managing your own expenses. So having some things that can help you keep those things organized, or having thought out what you're going to do about that, is smart. Note taking, a simple notebook is an obvious answer, and just having one that's specific to that trip can be a solution. Mm-hmm. There are lots of products that Smead offers. So the polyplastic envelopes of various sizes can help keep track of travel documents while you're in the process of traveling. Smaller ones can help keep track of receipts. Some have little zippers on them. Some have the little string enclosures. Some have a snap close, so those things don't end up everywhere. So having some tools with you to help keep paper and those types of records organized while you're traveling is smart.
Yep.
And then thinking about how you're going to keep track of notes. So do you want to do that in a notebook? Do you want to do that through an electronic tool like Evernote or OneNote? And is that easily accessible and already downloaded and ready to go on any device that you would use? So
yeah.
Those are some things to think about while you're traveling and you're in the midst of it.
Yeah, too, and a lot of the conventions and trade shows now will, if there's presentations, will give you the presentation slides afterwards. So that kind of helps eliminate having to take too many notes. But what about these apps? A lot of things you'll go to today will have an app just for the event where you can network with people and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's worth downloading the app. You can always remove it afterwards if it's taking up space you don't want to dedicate for that use. But typically the app will be updated to the minute. So, for example, if there are a lineup of presenters and they have submitted handout material to the conference organizer ahead of time, and something changes, they can update that on the app, and you might find yourself in a session where you thought you knew what the material was, but it was updated the day before. And if you have the app, you have access to the most current information.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. Yeah, and apps also have things like room numbers and like you said, the slides, maybe a bio or more information about the speaker. So they can be really helpful.
Yeah. Well, Debbie, we don't have time in this episode to finish all the tips, but before we go, tell us a little bit about Simply Placed and what you guys do.
Sure. We help busy people make better use of their time and their space and create systems and habits that help them be more productive. We have a residential division where we go into people's homes and help them get and stay organized. And then our commercial division where we go into companies and help their employees focus on priorities, get things done, and have more work-life harmony. So we can be found on the web at www.simplyplace.com. And website has a number of resources available. I can also offer to listeners today, we do have a travel checklist. We did a blog post with a good travel checklist in it. So if that's something you're looking for, if you head to our blog and type in travel checklist, it should pop up. If it doesn't, you have permission to email me, and I'll make sure that we get that to you because it could be a good resource.
Well, we'll also link to that on our show notes for this episode at smead.com/podcast. So we will not let people get away with not getting a hold of that, because that'll be a great way for them to take what they've learned today and put it into action. So, well, thanks, Debbie. We'll get back with the rest of the tips on our next episode of Keeping You Organized.